thank you very much for your comprehensive presentation on the different tools and resources. They have this model template for regulation guidelines for polluting technologies and also the product registration system. So the key issue would be how you would be able to raise awareness on the adoption of these guidelines that you have and how to make them very useful to the countries, and what would be the key considerations in designing a practical, user-friendly, and useful product registration database, and what are the key challenges. So those are the things that I think are very easy questions that may be asked from the floor. Now I would like to invite the speaker from ACE, from IEA, GIZ, and CASP. So we can begin with our Q&A from our audience. I would like to seek the assistance of my colleagues from ACE to please assist in the Q&A portion. Yes, who would like to, this is a very interesting session on cooling. You have heard many insights on policies, technologies, market, and tools. So who would like to begin? Yes, please, from China. Where is the microphone, please?
Oh, I can speak without the microphone. Okay. So, good morning everyone. I'm Pupo from Top 10 China. Actually, we built a big database for our top 10 snacks because we want to promote the most efficient appliances in China. So I think I have some comments for the database because I think database provides very modern technique for us to promote some strong or solid evidence to our stakeholders. First, I think database is with registration, but when we did the work, so we found that the real market sometimes does not reflect the registration because we found that we have 20,000 models of air conditioning in our registration, but on the market it would be like 1,000. So we have to do the cross-cutting between the real market and the registration. Then we promote the real market product. That means right now I think the internet, online shopping provides convenience for us to track the development of the market development. And that's why we think we can considering about in future we can integrate also the online retailing into our tracking system. That's a comment from first. And the second question, I think the benefits of big database is that we can provide some service for some big players because Top 10 provides service for ant forest. Ant forest in China, they have the user of 500 million users. They plant almost 100 million trees in Gobi Desert. They use this kind of green consumption behavior to transfer to green credit. And then we provide them the baseline because we have the data. So we provide the big tycoon of the commercial companies, the baseline of the average of the product, and then we provide the top. And then they can use the baseline into their CSR, social responsibility system, to encourage their employees or their customers to take green behavior consumption or purchasing, then transfer into green credits, and then ask some foundation to buy such kind of voluntary credits to take some real green actions in real world. I think that could be think about in the future of the usage of the the database, because not only for the policymaker or factory, but also it's good for some big companies which has a willingness to do the green consumption transformation because they have very influential influence on the global consumers. That's my comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Top 10, and maybe I would like to invite Patrick to provide a response.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for the question. And we've worked a lot with your Top 10 colleagues as well, and of course that's a good database as well for the top products on the market. So that's one approach as well to or initiatives could follow in countries to show that there are efficient products. But getting to your points on that there are some countries where there be many products listed and then only a certain amount in the market. So a product registration system is one aspect amongst multiple the approach that we encourage countries to follow, a more broader integrated policy approach. But with the product registration system, I think there's ways to also work with that there is with QR codes, it can help understand when there's products purchased. So that could be tracked. Obviously, you need to, with data concerns and privacy, needs to be taken as well. But that could be a method to follow. And then just generally, that a market assessment, a more detailed market assessment that we've done and like the IEA is working on as well, and other partners are working on, that there are a more detailed market assessments can be done, but a product registration system helps generally understand the type of products that are available in the markets. And then the other points as well to help that we encourage countries to provide updates, or the manufacturer would have to update this every 2 years, for example, because otherwise products stay in there. It's never, the database is never updated.
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, Patrick. Are you happy on the response on the privacy approach?
Yeah, of course. I'm quite happy. And I would like to make our contribution to the work.
That's
so.
good. Okay, any other question from the floor? You would like to, oh yes, please.
Yeah, so very rightly said by Patrick, and I would also like to add that, product registration system can serve multiple purposes apart from providing information to consumers on the efficient appliances in the market. Like it can serve as a compliance gateway. Before people are able to sell their products in the market, they can register themselves, the products. So in India, you cannot sell a product in the market if it is under mandatory labeling unless it is registered on the platform.
Okay.
So that's the first.
That's the same thing in China also.
Yeah. So efficient. So a database of efficient. So you can filter that information, the entire database. From that, you can filter the information for the most efficient ones.
Yep.
Yeah. I have one question for Patrick, if I may ask.
Before you ask the question, I think Melanie would like also to say something.
I was just going to say that in the Australian system, we required manufacturers to review the registration every year and to say that the product was still available, because we had the same problem. We tried to do we wanted to give an award at the beginning of the air conditioning season for the most efficient air conditioner, and we tried to buy the top 6, and they weren't actually available, so we had to introduce this system of checking.
Yep.
But another system, as well as the product registration systems that some countries are using to track their markets, is web crawling. So the Nordic countries have done some really interesting work recently on monitoring their products through very clever algorithms that are set loose to extract information from the internet. So there's a lot of interesting work going on at the moment.
So thanks for that. So we have to make use of these available best practices, in terms of tracking and monitoring. You want to say something, please?
May I ask a question also to I mean, when we have a regulation in place which requires importers or producers to register their products in the first place, to bring them into the market, is there also regulation in place that forces them to every year report the number of products? Because then we would actually have a system in which we can track the month average.
So India has it. So manufacturers have to provide all the information about the number of products that they have produced, so that because government levies a fee on every product that you register. So that fee will only be calculated depending on the number of products that are registered. But that information is not publicly available because that affects their market and competitiveness. But not many other countries have that system.
Any response from Patrick?
No, I think that answers the question.
So any other further questions? Yes, Indonesia.
Okay, thank you very much for all of you for the very good presentations. I think I'd like to ask Patrick,
Yeah.
Patrick, okay, because we're talking now on Asian level, I'd like to know more on your experiences on developing the region of registrations, that is, registration systems, because as you know, ASEAN member countries are very different in terms of the system. Maybe you can share more on how to integrate the regional, the different kind of countries. One, okay, hold your answer first. And I want to ask Philip from GIZ regarding the CO2 refrigerants. How do you choose to move forward with the CO2 refrigerants? Because I think it's not usual for us from developing country to have the CO2 available for refrigerants. And the third one, I think remarks for our colleagues from the clubs. I've read the market surveillance for air conditioners, and I see a little bit mistake there. Indonesia, for AC, we don't have such regulations. So I think you cannot put Indonesia in medium surveillance country. Just that. Thank you.
Okay, please, Patrick, would you like to respond?
Okay. Yeah, and, so on the regional aspects of the product registration system, so we'll be able to expand on this a bit tomorrow. That's part of the work that we're proposing, is to think this through together with you and other stakeholders. But just a few thoughts on how this could operate. There's already some systems in place in some countries. What a regional system would do, since there is harmonization of standards and also with the MRA, that it would help in harmonization. So there could still be individual systems in countries that already have it, and that would provide the data to the regional system. And then maybe new countries that are starting would use the regional system as a template, or just generally use that system, adopt that system, so then they themselves do not have to start a system and operate it themselves, because this obviously it has a cost, and it also could reduce in trade barriers between countries if there's always a manufacturer needs to enter into every country. So that's just a few thoughts, but of course we propose to have more discussions on how to go about this.
Thank you very much, Philip. I think also there is a need for us to design some kind of awareness raising on the different product registrations that are available worldwide, and also what are the best practices. At the same time, perhaps capacity building on how to make use of this product registration database. And of course, noting the differences in the status of the AMS in terms of standards and labeling. Again, we need to come up with a common approach so that we will be able to get the buy-in and the application of this product database in the AMS. So there is a long way to go. There are several approaches to that, but I think capacity building is something that we need to kickstart with our collaboration. So for the second concern of Indonesia, please, GIZ.
Yeah, thank you very much for the question on the choice of refrigerants. First, I mean, from the point of view of GIZ, we are not promoting specific natural refrigerants, but all kinds of natural refrigerants, whether it's CO2, ammonia, hydrocarbon. Also the producers that, for example, cooperate with us under the Thailand Ragnama project or under other projects are free, of course, in their refrigerant choice. It's not ours, it's theirs. Also, it's their choice to participate. Now, to link to your question, the choice of refrigerant is always application specific. So you would come to another conclusion for air conditioners than you would come for example, refrigerators. You would also come to different conclusions when it comes to hot climates versus cold climates. And you have to evaluate refrigerants along different dimensions, energy efficiency potential for sure, safety of course in the given application, also the economic viability, basically the price of making the product, of providing it to the market and so on. And when it comes to carbon dioxide technology, we have seen that all producers we are working with have not chosen carbon dioxide technology because at the moment it's either not very efficient in hot countries, or if you want to make it efficient, it's very expensive and by that not price competitive. We now see increasing numbers of carbon dioxide applications also in hot climates, for example in larger warehouses, commercial applications. And from our perspective, carbon dioxide technology is the one where there's currently most innovation ongoing. So to basically also agree with you in the point that carbon dioxide technology might not appear to be ready for hot climates yet, I think we can also, we should closely track what's going on, because I think we see an increasingly bright future for carbon dioxide technology upcoming.
Okay, any other further questions or? Yes, please.
I'm from Thailand. I would like to ask on the refrigeration database. You're talking about the registration system. What about the user database? Is database aimed to track record on the market from the user side?
So it kind of goes to the question from top 10 in China as well. So the database would be input, the information would be input by like the supplier or the manufacturer. But there's different ways that can communicate to the end-use consumer through a mobile application or QR codes that can help track the number of products in the market. But the main person or organization company that would input it is the supplier, not the consumer. Answer your question.
So on the presentation, you talk about the market competitor.
Yeah.
If I am the manufacturer and I want to compare with my product with another with your database, how I can utilize this data on your system? Because when we are manufacturer in Thai, example, we are not selling our product in Thai only, we are selling our abroad also. Then how can I classify what is my market positioning in Thailand and compare with another country also? Is it can be tracked from your database?
Okay, I'll try to answer. So I think the point with the regional system is it would help in doing that you would be able to see across markets. But not all information would be shared publicly. Some by the regulator may be kept to them so that they wouldn't want to share that information. But generally, I think a regional system would allow more increased comparison for manufacturers to see that where they stand as far as efficiency and other aspects in the markets. And there's existing systems, and as I said, there's some of the information is public, so that is existing. So you can't, in some regions, you can't see the products that are listed in the market.
Are you happy on the response? Okay. Any other question from the floor? Yes.
My name is Beck. I'm with International Corporate Association. First, I would like to share my observation after listening to all the presentation, and then probably a question, more of an open question in terms of coordination and collaboration. I observed that I think all projects, while they have their own unique objective and team, there are many areas of overlapping. For example, data collection. Each project starts with some form of assessment which requires data collection. And some of this data collected feeds into another project. So the question I have is, how can we have a more systematic approach to actually data collection so that a new project don't have to go through that assessment process again and start looking at 10 different reports and figure out what is the latest situation. That's one. Second is on policy guides. U4E has policy guides. CLAPS has a guideline for MV&E. IEA, I think, have a recommendation guideline for MAPS implementation. even the GIZ project may have some form of a policy guide. So I can imagine if I am Ms. Lata sitting in her EMA office looking at 5 different documents, policy guidelines for energy use standards and labeling. So how do we actually consolidate all this effort and come up with something that is easily applicable and explained to the policymakers without needing to go through different documents and figure out what should be done. This is also for ASEAN as a coordinator for.
Those are very good questions. That's why we are in this networking and coordination conference. I think we would like to hear from IEA, yeah, please.
So, thank you. One of the reasons for the Kigali tracker, and one of the reasons that the KSEP decided that the IEA should be the home for the tracker, was to try to have a place where the data was openly accessible, and not all projects or project coordinators are prepared to share data, but one of the requirements of the KSEP projects is that all data is given to the IEA and it is made available through the tracker. So you have our undertaking that you will be able to access that. There's a dashboard which shows you what's going on in each country. You can filter data through various lenses, be it efficiency, coolant, and all of those things. So it's only a start. It's only new, and we're actually having a difficulty getting hold of the data that everybody thought was out there. So our request to countries, to governments, is, if at all possible, that they share data with the tracker, so that it then has a common platform. So we have a data reporting template that we can share. If anybody's got a project that where they want to use a common format for the collection, so that it's then comparable with data that we already have, then please let us know. We'd like people to use that common format. So that's one thing. On the policy stuff, we have a policy exchange platform at the IEA where you can go in and have a look at what any country is doing on any particular energy efficiency policy. And we spend a lot of effort populating that tracker. We're going to carry on doing that. Regardless of all of the transitory projects that come and go, that will continue to be there, continue to be built upon. So again, we'd like to make sure that people know that's available. If you have data that's not represented on there, let us know, and we'll use it, and we'll make sure it appears. So the more we talk, the more we openly collaborate, the less we compete, the less we want our project to be the biggest, best, and the only project that's out there. This should be something where we're talking to each other and building on each other's work.
Excellent. You said it well. So we don't have to compete with each other, but we have to work and build one's other's strength. Okay, would you like to say something on the manual and guidelines?
Yeah, maybe on the, or maybe from the case of Kigali Tracker, we're also working with IEA on that as well, and coordinating our different assessments. So that is being done. Like the policy recommendations, we also have convened, I think, the fellow partners here speaking today in an effort to have like best practices on model regulations. So we hope that is a template that can be used. It still needs to be discussed at a regional basis like this, but generally it's a template that has the buy-in from different stakeholders here today, but then also broader ones like manufacturers and also environmental groups like natural resources.
Thank you very much. One last question, because I'm sure everybody's already hungry. Okay, please, from Brunei Darussalam.
Alright, thank you very much, Grace. My name is Abdul Salam from Ministry of Energy and Power Industry of Brunei Darussalam. First and foremost, thank you very much to all speakers for your comprehensive presentation this morning. On the setting of minimum energy performance standard, MAPS, for air conditioning system, our country, Brunei Darussalam, will be enforcing a coefficient of performance, a COP of 2.9 by Q1 next year. So my question here is, what are actually the factors that will help us to determine towards the increase of appropriate increase of minimum energy performance standard in terms of COP, and how long would be the appropriate timing for each level of COP to be implemented before certain COP increase in the market? Thank you very much.
Would like to, yes, class, please.
Yeah. So the practice that we generally follow in each of the countries, including India, is that we first collect the market data on efficiency as well as the type of products that are available in the market. And then we conduct the analysis on the average efficiencies that are available in the market. And then we have stakeholder discussions comprising of manufacturers, industry, test laboratories to arrive at a decision as to what should be the mix. So maybe in the beginning when you are implementing a policy for the first time, it could be a little lower, but at a later stage, once the policy is in place, you will have all the data from the manufacturers and you will have the information on what are the efficiency levels in the market. Then based on the analysis, which will be more realistic because you will have that information, like the government will have that information, you can further propose. And also another practice is to conduct international comparison. So you can compare with all the countries that are there in the region at least, and the regional roadmap that you have. And at least in 2 to 3 years, we take it as a practice to look at the revision. So,
Are you happy with it? Okay. Thank you very much. One last question from Kubalan. Mr. Kubalan, please.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Kubalan from WF Malaysia. I just have this question from the perspective of a consumer. Well, I believe that cooling technology goes hand in hand with improving building efficiency, building design efficiency. So, like if you purchase the most efficient air conditioner, but you place it in a room that has the most sunlight coming in, you may find that the building or room energy consumption much higher than usual. So may I know that how are you testing the air conditioning or cooling technologies for the worst case scenarios? And secondly, have you made overtures to meet with property developers as well as designers? Because they need to be aware of this improved air conditioning technology as well.
Okay, anyone who would like to? Yes, IEA, please.
I can make a start, I'm sure others would like to comment too, but one of the things I wanted to draw attention to is also the importance of the building codes as well as the advanced standards. So ideally governments would have both of these things and they would work on them together. In the projections that we have, we show that you can get 25% more savings by having effective building codes as well as effective advanced standards. So most governments do have or are introducing building codes. So we need both things. You could one without the other is sort of suboptimal.
Okay, so that's the, okay, please.
Also regarding the standardization question, I mean, to simulate or to measure according to a worst case scenario is really difficult because it not only depends on the building shell, it also depends on user behavior. I mean, we're now sitting here well dressed in a very cool room, which is also kind of a highly questionable practice, so to say. And it makes a difference whether people cool down their room to 20 degrees Celsius or 25. And we see a lot of countries now encouraging by awareness raising campaigns to change user behavior. So there are a lot of factors which influence the actual energy demand by cooling. However, what really can be said from a very little study we did here in Thailand where we compared energy efficiency levels to price is that super energy efficient equipment is not always much cheaper or much more expensive than the really poor equipment. And we could show that, in particular for air conditioners, which consume a tremendous amount of energy if you cool for a reasonable amount or for a reasonable time per day, it always pays off in a very short time to buy the most efficient unit. The problem is, of course, when we look into the economic development, a lot of people start buying air conditioners at the moment where they can barely afford. So their income increases, and then one of the first things is they buy an air conditioner, and they buy the cheapest one because it's the first thing they can afford. And I think that's also a big question, is how can we make energy efficient equipment, if it's a little bit more expensive, also attractive for low income households, and how can we raise the awareness that for these households the monthly energy savings and energy cost savings are actually paying off in no time, and it makes, even for low income households, sense to maybe wait for a little bit more time until they can afford a better air conditioner.
I noticed that most of the institutions are they working with property developers and architects? I mean, do you work in silos, or shouldn't you be working together with developers and letting them know about the standards that improve standards?
Yes, please, Lillian.
Just a small advertisement for something that we're about to do with the government of Singapore. So we're going to be doing some energy efficiency training for green buildings in July. And what we'll be doing there is bringing together the policymakers, the green building councils, the architects, the academics, and getting them all together to talk about the roles they each have to play in this journey that we need to make towards more efficient buildings. So the answer is there's not enough going on, but there is some work going on.
So everyone is invited to join that capacity.
Yes, absolutely. Please do come
workshop in July in Singapore. Okay, so I think we don't have much time, and I'm sure you still have burning questions with you. You can bring them with you and sit down with one of our speakers and further discuss. And I would like to end this session, and in this session is very insightful. We have covered many issues, discussion about policy, about market, about technology, about tools and resources, impact to the environment. And I would like to thank once again our speakers from UN, from GIZ, from IEA, from PLUS, and from ACE. And all of the body of work that they are doing, they are very much in line with what we are doing in ASEAN, along the line with the ASEAN Plan of Action for Energy Cooperation. Once again, let's give them a big hand.